Welcome, students, as we prepare for another episode of DC Graduates. I am one of your teachers, your doctor recommended dose of nerdiness, aka your nerd today. And as always, I am joined by my teacher in crime, Sly. Sly, how are you today?
I'm doing great. I'm so excited for the crimes to commence.
Mm-hmm.
Because we're talking about a movie that I legitimately adore. I like this movie so much. I watch it every time I really want to hate myself a little bit. I do a triple feature with spoiler alert, this week and both of next week's movies because sometimes you just need to feel something, all right?
This one?
So of course we're talking about the one and only 2016 film cinema masterpiece, Batman the Killing Joke.
Yes, some would say masterpiece. Others have other words for it, which is crazy to think
Listen,
about. Because on paper, this should be like Rotten. I think the Rotten Tomato score is like 35, which who cares about them? But in general, like
damn,
that's a Rotten Tomato
that's like
score.
bad.
Yeah. Um I saw that today when I purchased. I ended up buying the movie. I was like, I'm gonna watch it more than one time.
As
As
you
you as
should.
well. I kind of hate myself sometimes that I hate watch it. Um, but so I ended up buying it. It said 35. I was like, damn, I don't remember it being that bad. Like I know people hate it, but god damn. Um,
It's a 6.4 out of 10 on IMDb, which IMDb notably has a lot of haters. So I was impressed it's
that's,
that high.
that's actually pretty good. That's actually pretty good. IMDb. I will admit. I will admit that's actually pretty decent. Um, but yeah, I don't know. This is like I think my third time watching it. Um,
Really.
yeah, and definitely more positive along with it. It's just the changes, which we'll get into soon.
Okay.
But like the
Yeah, but
changes are like the rough part for me. And it's something that we, funny enough, I alluded in episode one of DC Graduates when we covered Max of the Phantasm because
I
this is
do have my gripes with this movie. Let
yeah
that be known. We'll
yeah
get to it.
this is the overall theme, and I think as we are having fun, it is I guess pertinent to say there's gonna be trigger warnings, content warnings in this movie because the original source material has a lot of stuff that's left to the imagination. But when you ask the writers and artists, they're like, no, that we intended for the story to be this, which is very trigger warning, very content warning. Um, so just be mindful of that. We're gonna get into it because Alan Moore and Brian Boland both were like, no, this is what happens. It was like, but you're so vague. It was like, yeah, we work at DC. Can't just be like, hey, this is what happened. And it was like, I don't want to think about this.
Real.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now I have to think about this. But I mean, if you look at like just in general, I think I'm more positive this third viewing than I have been the previous two. And when you look at it from like a talent standpoint, it's directed by Sam Liu, who we've seen previously on the show, written by
I will
Brian.
see many more times.
Exactly, he's like the pitch hitter. Written by the amazing Brian Azzarello, who is a very amazing artist and writer. Primarily a writer. Pardon me. At DC, he's done a bunch of different like adaptations, Batman, Joker, things like that. So he knows his shit. So he has no small task to adapt Alan Moore stuff. Who Alan Moore notoriously hates anything that's adapted of his, no matter what. It doesn't matter if it's good or bad. He just hates it. He's
Yeah.
just gone on record. He's like, it doesn't matter. I don't want any of my shit
He's
being made
like uncredited in every single thing that's
in
adapted from his
everything.
properties. He's like, I'm
Yeah.
not putting my name on it, regardless.
No, I'm interested to see what we get when we eventually watch the Watchmen trilogy that just came out. Like,
Mm.
what's that gonna look like? His credits and stuff. It's probably just gonna be Dave Gibbons, and then just like similar to this, it's only Brian Boland credited. The studio as always is WB Animation. This is one of when I was looking up the trivia. This is one of the third movies released by DC to be rated R in theaters because this got a 2 night showing. So we had, I think previously V for Vendetta, Watchmen, and
Mhm.
I think this, and then this would be followed up by Batman v Superman. By the way, I'm not wearing this on purpose. I'm ready for bed after this, so this is my pajama shirt. It just happens to be Batman v Superman, but yeah, the uncut version of
Well,
that.
I was watching this film on Blu-ray, and guess what trailer played before this movie?
Was it Batman v Superman? Oof.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Oof.
And okay, this is gonna be a quick tangent because I was watching that trailer and I was like, I've seen this movie, I know how bad it is, but that trailer makes me go, ooh, but that could be good.
Yep.
It's not. How
It's
did
not.
they convince me? Like,
He makes good ass trailers. I generally
good,
have
good
fun for
trailer.
most of the time with Zack Snyder stuff. A lot of it is fun. Like Army of the Dead with Dave Bautista, kind of fun. I haven't seen Rebel Moon. I don't know if I want to. I know there's an alien sex scene with tentacles involved. I mean, sometimes
Some
you gotta
people would
rate.
be into that.
Yeah, some people, maybe.
Mhm.
I'm not.
Yeah.
We have a very viral clip. I'm not gonna name names. You watch that clip. You know who I'm talking about. But yeah, sometimes you gotta rein people in. Zack Snyder's one of those guys you
Uh-huh.
gotta rein in every once in a while. You know, Michael Bay's another one. If you rein him in, hey, you might get the island out of him. You might get like a good movie or Bad Boys, 1 and 2. And sometimes you get Transformers 2, and there's a lot of racism. But that was this, despite our little tangent. Yeah, I mean, again, we're gonna go into the stars real quick because again, all star cast because this is a movie that
Oh yeah.
these two always wanted to do, and this almost was pretty much like for all intents and purposes a send off to almost both of these characters for the most part. We have Kevin Conroy as Batman returning for this seminal. Like this is something you have to do Kevin Conroy for, and ideally as well you have Mark Hamill, who at the time was
Mhm.
retired from doing Joker, but said he would do
He
it.
said he would come back for this
For
one.
this one, yeah, and he did, and then he did a couple more afterwards. But with
Mhm.
the untimely passing of Kevin Conroy, he is now retired because heartbreaking post. He said, "What is the Joker without Batman?" And
Mhm.
I didn't think of thinking about Joker and Batman. I would cry, and that was the day I cried. um, but
Yeah.
returning for her role as Batgirl, we have Tara Strong. We have Ray Weiss as Commissioner Gordon. And then we have some notable, voice actors. We have Bruce Timm, Nolan North, and John DiMaggio, who just always are something and something else.
He keeps popping up and he'll be a little bit more prominent in future projects.
Yep,
But
next
every
week.
time I see him, I'm like, good for you. Like you're earning that paycheck.
We're talking about John DiMaggio, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I think next week he's showing back up.
Oh, it's yeah, probably.
Yeah, I see. Yep. Next week he's gonna be.
Cool.
Where is this streaming? I don't know. I ended up purchasing this because it was on sale for $6 on
Nice.
Microsoft Store, and it's like movies anywhere, so it's on every device I own. And then you
Mhm.
have this 80th anniversary Batman, right? So
Yeah.
anywhere else to find it? The high seas of the
Streamers.
internet. Who the fuck
Yeah.
knows?
I definitely have streamed it before. And I think this was like at least my fifth time watching this film, and I don't rewatch things often. So that's a pretty high number for me.
That's how much you
But
love
it
this
was
movie.
something or other. I just think it's so fascinating.
It
There's
is
so
very
many things
fascinating.
we can talk about. We'll get into it. Before
So
we can
man,
dive into all my thoughts about this cursed movie.
yeah, hit us with the plot recap, Sly.
Another boring one again. This is just corporate PR copy. As Batman hunts for the escaped Joker, the clown prince of crime, attacks the Gordon family to prove a diabolical point, mirroring his own fall into madness. I always get so mixed up. First of all, I'm dyslexic, and second of all, they call Joker the clown prince of crime and Bruce, the Crown Prince of Gotham.
So it's just like it throws you off. You're like,
Those
what the
are,
hell?
yeah, those are very similar epitaphs,
And for
and kind of
honestly,
illustrates
their
the
duality, yeah.
per, yeah, duality. I was trying to say para like parallelity. That's not a word. Duality. Thank you.
You're welcome. But you know what's funny? Crown Prince of
Whew.
Crime also sounds like it's like Berenstein Bears. Like, is it Berenstein or Bernstein?
Uh-huh.
You said clown. I was like, yeah, that sounds right. You said crown. I was like, yeah, that sounds right. Both are right. There's no wrongs.
It's the Clown Prince
Yeah,
or the clown.
it just throws me
But
off, man.
yeah,
Who are the comic book characters in this movie?
I don't know, man. The usual. We got Batsy. We got Barbara Gordon, my beloved. We got Jim Gordon, that's his name. The Joker obviously makes an appearance. Alfie came in for one scene, laid down the sass, and then dipped. Respect. And we got a Bullock appearance. Your beloved.
Yeah, he was good in this one too. He was very understated. I had a couple notes about his performance. I was like, oh, and it's like very subtle. You don't pick
Mhm.
up on him. There's like two little
Oh
scenes,
yeah.
and I'm like, oh, I guess again because this is like my third rewatching. By the way, I forgot to mention this is the second time I purchased this movie because I owned it on the
What was the
PlayStation
first?
Store. You remember they used to have
Oh
like a video library thing,
yeah.
so that got taken away when they were like, hey, we're shutting this down. I'm like, oh, but I bought movies on here.
Mhm.
I have like 5 movies. What the fuck?
That's the
Um,
problem with everything we own being digital is they can revoke it
but
at
I have
any
no
time.
space for physical media. This is on top of my Xbox, so I don't forget to
Uh-huh.
watch it on there.
Yeah.
'Cause it's the only Blu-ray player I have. I was like, damn
Mhm.
it. What I was like, what do I have a Blu-ray player? I was like, oh yeah, I do. Yeah, the Xbox. Um,
Mhm.
yeah, yeah. There was some things right there. Let's just get into it, man, because this is gonna be a juicy one. So we're jumping right into the Andrea Romano roundup. Of course, we shout out our voice director, Queen Andrea Romano. Where do you want to start, Sly? You have some good ones on here.
Let's start with the first one.
Men, musicals, and monologues. Oh my.
Oh my. Okay, there's a lot of things in this. But I feel like they're brief thoughts, so I combined them. I'm
Mhm.
gonna start with the musicals. I love a musical break. I
Yeah,
think it's so perfectly placed. It's well timed. It's clever.
yeah, it is
It's
very
well
clever.
performed. If anybody's hating on the musical number, they can kiss my ass.
Yeah, because I don't think they would get the context of it, right? Because I can see someone be like, "What is going on? This is crazy." I'm like, that's the point, though. Like Joker's trying to break this motherfucker down on like a molecular level.
Yeah.
Like he is trying to corrupt the incorruptible, and he is doing a damn good job at this point. And I had to think about the comic because I was like, I don't think there's any music that plays them in scene. It's just the imagery of the censored imagery because there are uncensored
Yeah.
versions that Brian Bolin has of
Mhm.
of Barbara, post what happens to her. And at this point, Gordon is in this precarious predicament where he's just like slowly going mad,
Butt ass naked,
but as
chained
naked, yeah,
up, big,
just mentally,
subjected to
physically
all
tortured,
sort of,
yeah.
horrors.
And then
And
to see his
it's
daughter,
so brilliant the way, like, this. Okay, so for context, this movie was my first experience with the source material. I didn't read the comic until after having seen the
mhm,
movie. So when I think about the storyline, this is my first point of reference. But like the idea of how do you adapt something like a comic that's this serious and powerful into a movie format? And how do you ev- in, evoke those same feelings of like the absolute like breakdown he's trying to trigger. His whole thesis throughout this entire story is you are one bad instance, one bad day away from being just like me. He wants to prove that everybody, when pushed to their limits, will respond the way he did. And he's actively pushing the like best person he can think of
mhm.
into situations to make him like respond in kind. And a horrific musical number that's actually kind of a banger with
Yeah,
this grotesque imagery happening is so brilliant.
it really is. And then with the added context in this movie, we do have like an opening. no, like an opening section of the movie that's not part of the original source material. It's adapted from
Mhm.
like a one of like Batgirl's final stories, and they kind of adapted it for this section of the movie. It's kind of give her more agency, which is I do appreciate in this movie.
Mhm.
This section in the book I do remember is I believe more video. So when he's going through the tunnel, this ghost house thing, there are photos of Barbara, but there's also audio played of Barbara
Mm.
being it's
Assaulted.
yeah, it's implied that from the viewer's perspective, right? We already know she's shot, she's paralyzed, and she's bleeding out, and at this point she's like Gordon's shown her naked, and
Mhm.
then there's audio that goes along with it, and it's it's told, you see it in the bubbles, and the assumption for a lot of people it was 50-50. A lot of this book is very 50-50, so it makes the book
Mhm.
controversial in general to readers, even though it is a very seminal story in Batman and Batgirl's history, and Joker. It's like all three of them is
Mhm.
like one of their most famous stories.
Yeah.
Some people feel it's just the physical assault. Some other
Mm.
feel, and has been confirmed by Brian Bolin and I believe Alan Moore, that it is SA that happens to
Mhm.
Barbara. Jim also
Which is pretty
gets SA'd.
explicitly mentioned in this film.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's done in a way that shows a little more respect. I don't think it's hard to portray what they wanted to do in a comic, right? So this audio
Yeah.
section, I think, kind of works. And weird. I don't like saying
Mhm.
that about this situation, of course, but
Right.
for the movie, I think it would have been way too much. It would have just been
Yeah.
gross, grotesque. It's already a plot point. Let's not like harp on it even more so
Yeah, it
than
was
it already
one
is.
of the better handled aspects, I think,
Mm-hmm. Like
of
compared
Barbara's
to the book,
storyline.
yeah, compared to the book for
Yeah,
me, that is a better option of that. Um,
and I think it comes with this idea that when you're talking about sensitive stories especially,
mhm.
what is the line between being able to explicitly state this is what we're representing, this is what we're discussing it, and not like traumatizing or harming your audience, especially audiences from the like minority group or like group you're trying to represent.
Mhm.
And I think this draws that line really well in a way I was not expecting from a movie that also horrifically and disgustingly discusses like disability.
Yes.
Because oh boy.
Hey, it's rough. I had a thought. I don't think I wrote it down, but it's like when you see Joker do it to some random person, you're like, oh my God, he's
Mhm.
horrible. What a piece of shit. But when you see it to someone you love and someone you've
Mhm.
grown so close with as an audience member, as a reader,
Mhm.
a watcher in Barbara Gordon, you're like, it feels so much more visceral. And those jokes,
Yeah.
like, even hurt worse, if that makes sense. Like,
Mhm.
it's even harder to see those jokes played out when you have this situation that is like it's such a named character. It's a character we've grown so close into. It hurts worse. Like when it's something
Mhm.
Joker does to everyone.
It feels personal.
It's so personal just for Barbara, and he doesn't even, I don't, at this point in the comics, doesn't even know that she's Batgirl. He's fought her before.
No.
He's just
It's
trying to
just
hurt
that he's
Batman.
trying to break
Hmm.
Jim Gordon. Like that's the only thing. It's
Yeah.
incredible.
It is a very interesting way to do that, and as well to also mention with this trigger warning aspect, Jim also, it's implied that he is also been assaulted.
Mm.
That Joker assaulted both of them sexually that night to
And
try
I feel
to
like
break him.
in this movie, it's explicit with Barbara and like low key implied with Jim. Like
Hmm.
you can definitely read that, but it is not nearly as. It's not really in the text.
Yeah, if you're gonna, if for me, if you're gonna explicitly mention Barbara going through this, then you got to do it with Jim as well. I mean, like
Mhm.
I know that sounds weird to say that about this situation, but like if the subtext is there, the authors have stated this is what we did in this movie and this
The
book,
intention.
and this is what happened. This is the intention, and you want to be one for the most part when it comes to the story. Then, unfortunately, be one for one.
Mhm.
It feels really weirdly one sided when it's just explicitly Barbara, and we don't talk about Jim.
Right.
You know, it's
Yeah.
like, oh, he just got mentally messed with and beat up. It was like, well, no, he went through the same thing as his daughter, and there's a
Yeah.
that's there,
He's
unfortunately.
literally naked and tied up and imprisoned. And like you can read into that, but
Yeah,
if you're gonna state it explicitly for one, like
you gotta
you
do it
can
for the other.
handle the other with the same care. But um the other okay, that's the musicals, the monologues. I want to talk about these monologues because oh boy.
They're great.
Starting with the one you first mentioned, the opening narration from Barbara Gordon, pulled I think from one of her annuals right before she became Oracle full time,
Yes, I believe so.
right? Uh, and it's such a great frame for the story. I think the way they wove those two comics together felt really seamless.
Mm-hmm.
And like you can tell, like, oh, this is Batgirl and this is Killing Joke, but also they flow so smoothly like into each other in a way that I
Mm-hmm.
really liked. But also throughout this entire film, they'll just like to use the theater term, park and bark. It'll just be like this one shot of this one character and they're just monologuing. And it's so good every time. The performances are great. The like dialogue is great. I was eating it up.
I mean, that's why, so many people I think believe, like, I love Alan Moore's stuff because it's so wordy. It's so, but it's not
Mhm.
over your head for a lot of times. You can pick up on it. It's not like a Grant Morrison writer who I adore from a writing standpoint, but he can get, and there's a whole issue with Batman. This is where I'm getting to. There's a whole issue with Batman when he was like on the main Batman series. That is
Uh-huh.
basically just like each page is like a poem. And I'm like, bro, I love
Iconic.
Batman. I love you. I love poems. I'm not gelling, bro. I just want Batman to punch people right now.
Yeah.
Like, I understand this makes me look
Maybe not
stupid.
the most cohesive,
Not right now.
but you know,
Not right
there's
now
a
for your
time and
shit.
a place for it.
Yeah, and then we mentioned Alan Moore before and how brilliant his writing is when you have something like the Green Lantern stories I mentioned in previous episodes.
Mhm.
Um, you can just tell his writing is just so god. He's such a master at this specifically, and when you get the obviously the opening monologue is not from anything he's written, but when you get to the Killing Joke proper, and Batman has that first interaction, with
Mhm.
Joker, like one of us is gonna kill each other. What's gonna happen? Like, I don't want this to happen. You don't want this to
Where
happen.
he's talking to the imposter and the
Yes, that
uh-huh.
is such a great and beautiful like look into Batman's psyche. Like he is
Mhm.
obviously he's a cowl and cape and everything, but like he is as like metaphorically bare naked as he is. He is pouring himself out
Oh
to
yeah.
his arch nemesis right now, and he's being so genuine, not manipulative at all. He's just being like, "Hey, this is getting bad, and this is escalating with us. Like before it gets to a point we both can't return from, we need a backup."
Mhm.
And he does this twice to Joker. He
Yeah.
revisits this like conversation with him when he actually is face to face with him, and it's just so brilliant written, and then just everything about like
And the subtle differences between the two monologues
mm-hmm,
where you see where he's like talking to the real Joker, there is this little bit deeper, little bit stronger emotional connection because they are so intrinsically tied up with each other. And then God, that end the end scene before the like mid credit scene or whatever.
yes, yes, oh my god,
Which also leaves a couple things up to the interpretation. Um,
that's
just
Alan Moore
so
to a T,
beautiful.
man. If he's not telling you straight
Love
up,
it.
he's like fucking think about it for 30 years. I'm like, I don't want to. Can you just tell me? Can you just tell me what happened, sir? Like, no, no, no. I don't know what happened. I don't know. You think about it. I was like, God damn it, you're such a good writer. Other writers, like, if I did that and I wrote a book and I was like, hey, leave it up to interpretation, like, you're a fucking hack. You are stupid. Why did you do that? I was like, I don't know. Alan Moore did it. He was like, yeah, he's a fucking god. That's the reason why.
Yeah.
And this motherfucker's on The Simpsons. That's how he's so weird. He's such a weird man. Uh, but it is funny to. when you get like these monologues, these actions, these whole things. And I wanted to tie in because I you know, you mentioned Bullock earlier as one of the characters of My Beloved,
Mhm.
but he has two scenes where he's catching Batman up to snuff with this comedian, his comic club scene that they found that's 3 years old,
Mhm.
and they're both coming to the conclusion. And Batman is basically, it's almost like a test for Batman, but not. He
Mhm.
knows he's gonna win it. Like Batman is testing
Right.
Bullock in like a battle of wits. Because I've wrote it here, like they hate each other. They absolutely do
Oh yeah.
hate each other, but at the same time, um, like they have this weird relationship because he trusts him. So he's like,
Yeah.
Bullock, what do you make of this? Like
Mhm.
Batman already knows what this is, but he's testing to see his mettle. And Bullock knocks it out of the park. He's like, this is 3 years old. This is what the coroner said. This is who this is. This has to be the people that were missing. And they're just bouncing off each other and like they're coming to the same
Mhm.
conclusions. And they still have like this I want to say this anger toward each other, right? You know, like they're
Yeah,
still
the
like come.
animosity,
Thank you.
absolutely. Yeah.
You know? But it still comes from a place of weird respect from the both of them to a certain degree.
Yeah.
And then later, you know, after the assault on Barbara, of course, Bullock could be on the streets, he could do anything, but Jim puts him. Well, at this point, I guess Bullock puts himself in the situation. Like, where would Jim be in this situation? So Jim
Yeah.
would not be on the
He
streets.
decides for himself.
Yeah, he would be with Babs. You know, he would be with Barbara,
Mhm.
and Bullock being in charge in this situation and probably delegating, be like, "Yo, you guys go find out. You know, talk to Batman. I'm here. I'm gonna stay at the hospital. He ain't leaving." Because if this happened once, it ain't gonna happen again. If Joker shows up, it's gun first, Joker dead. That's it. Like,
On site. Yeah.
and Bullock has this thing where when he's originally talking to, you know, Batman, he calls her Miss Gordon because he's showing respect to Barbara. Then Miss Gordon was attacked, all this stuff. You know, Jim was attacked, he was taken, and then they started talking about what happened after. And he says the
Mhm.
victim.
Yeah.
It's almost like Bullock doesn't
He
want it
can't
to be
even
real.
he can't have a personal connection
Hmm.
while discussing it. He has to put this like distance himself and like this is me giving a report. This is not me talking about like my like closest friend's like daughter. Like
Yeah,
this person I
like he's
watched grow
probably,
up and
yep,
like
he's probably been at parties. He's probably, you know, seen her at the station. He's probably chit chatted with her. He seems like a good enough dude to be like funny with kids. Like I can see there's
Mhm.
so much you can glean from Bullock's character from different comic book series and things like that, and adaptations that you can see that there's a good man there for the most part. He's just a
Mhm.
slob, and you start, your brain starts this head canon of like, oh my god, he has seen this girl grow up since she was little. You know, he's probably been there for her. He's probably bought her lunches and shit like that. He's been at her side this whole time as much as he has been Jim's. And
Mhm.
he can't bring himself to use Barbara's first or last name. And speaking of what,
Oh.
her assault, when it comes to that section of the report, and he just calls her the victim, and it feels like he has to, because if he says her name, it's real, then it
Mhm.
happened.
Yeah.
God,
Cool.
it's so subtle, and that's like something Alan Moore does all the time. It's like you could read between four different lines and get four different you know, he's like Kendrick
Mhm.
Lamar is like the Alan Moore of rappers. Like how many entendres are we getting? You know, like what are you thinking about? What's in this song? What's the actual meaning? Sometimes it is just I hate Drake, but other times
Mhm.
it's I hate Drake, but with these different levels.
And then for me, one part that always really resonates is the way Bullock talks about oh, what's her friend's name? Colleen,
Yeah,
the one who she thinks is at the door that she's going out with. And then how Bullock is talking about how she was the one who found her. And the way like he handles that conversation is always like I don't know. I mean, it's a punch to the gut, but in a good way? Question
yeah,
mark.
yeah. Yeah, he's actually really good at his job, surprisingly, despite his look and like repertoire. Like
Yeah.
he is really good at his job.
Mhm.
That's a good part to
Yeah.
mention, though. There are some toxic ass men in this movie. Bruce being chief among them.
Yeah, okay. So one of my main gripes with this movie, the
Mm,
primary gripe is especially this opening act, it's set up where there's this sleazy ass, what did I call him in my note? Cocky asshole. The nephew. He has a name. It's not important.
Oh,
Anyways,
Paris France.
that fucker. So it's setting him up as this like secondary antagonist of the film. He's enamored with Batgirl. He's obsessed with her. He like hyper fixates on her and it's like love bombing her, like all this bullshit. And they're trying to frame him as like the villain, while comma Bruce Wayne, Mr. Batman himself, is having some choice actions
Yep.
with Barbara, including fully controlling her, dictating what she is and is not allowed to do, and eventually not stopping her advances in a way
At
that
any
was
point. At any
wildly
point.
inappropriate, did not stop at any point, and then continues to ghost her and ignore her for something that he shouldn't have let happen. And here's my problem with this story
Mm-hmm.
is I think you could have told a really interesting narrative with Barbara having feelings for Bruce and what it means in that sort of mentor-mentee relationship, looking up to this dude, you
It makes
know,
sense. It makes sense.
and it makes sense. Like
Yeah.
her having a crush on Bruce is completely understandable, completely like acceptable.
She even says it to
The
her
problem is,
I never got his name, but her gay best friend in this.
oh, her gay best friend at the
Yeah.
library.
Yes.
I
Like
love
she
him.
calls it, she calls herself on it, like of course, like why
Yeah.
wouldn't I like him, like
Why wouldn't I? Yeah. However, Bruce, as much as he's an autistic individual who doesn't necessarily understand interpersonal social cues, has to know
mm-hmm.
how Barbara feels about him, has to be aware. And the minute she puts herself in a situation that where she's like on top of him and like kisses him and then starts to undress, I feel like a Batman that I'm supposed to believe in and support would have stopped it
Yes.
right there. And he doesn't, and he goes through with it. And that always sits so poorly with me, that you're trying to convince me that this other dude, this cocky asshole, that is the villain, and everything he's doing is wrong and inappropriate. And Bruce is also like trying to control her and also treating her like shit. And we're supposed to follow and support him because he's the hero, the capital H hero. And it's this one tiny moment in like the grand scheme of this film. However, it is a major gripe for me every single time.
Yeah,
And every single time I have to actively like forget about and suppress that part happening because I do want to enjoy this movie and I do enjoy everything
mhm.
about it.
Yeah, if we're talking a Barbara, this is gonna be a fucking stretch going here, but like a Barbara similar to Lego Batman, right? The Lego Batman movie,
Okay.
where
All
she's
right.
a full ass adult. She becomes
Uh-huh.
commissioner after her father, which that's not how commissioner work. But she becomes
Not at all.
commissioner in Gotham City post like her father retiring, and we have Dick Grayson as someone who she does not have a relationship with. Then
Mhm.
yes, that Barbara Gordon alone can do what she did with Bruce. But when you have the traditional sense of Barbara versus Batman, this mentee mentor role, um, the second he reciprocates with kissing her and then just grabbing on her, because he grabs some
Mhm.
things. He's like, I got turkeys in both
Yes.
hands. Sorry, I didn't think that would make me. I didn't think that would make me laugh as much as it did.
Okay,
Oh,
yeah.
gotcha. Yeah,
As much
but
as he reciprocates.
yeah, as soon as he reciprocates that, it changes. It changes everything, right? It changes the narrative for
Mhm.
this movie. It changes the narrative of their relationship. It changes the narrative in the whole Bat family. It changes as well what we get later on with Batman, because you show Barbara in this new beginning section, giving her own autonomy. Having her be the bookends of voicing, like controlling her narrative in a way that we don't see normally in the original book, right? When you
Right.
get that, then you just make her. I don't feel this way, but I'm just saying you make her like this thing because now
Uh-huh.
Batman has this
Yeah.
thing with
It's
her.
this object that
Joker,
can be controlled. Yeah.
yeah, has objectifies her. This Paris Franz guy is like objectifying her, which Bruce takes so he's like, oh, he's just objectifying
It's
you. Like,
so offensive.
yeah, it was like, dude, what
Like,
the fuck
you
is
are
going on?
too bud. Like, fucking chill.
Yeah, and it takes away from
Yeah.
everything that we built up for Barbara, and it's not. I don't think it's a good choice for the character. I think some people could be out there like, I agree to disagree. Like, no, this is wrong every time because it's the aspect of Batman has seen her grow up too. This like she was
Mhm.
probably like 13 when he starts being Batman, and now she's like 23, 24, and then you're gonna tell me you're doing this? Nah, that's gross as shit. And
And you
then
have an adopted ward.
yeah,
I guess he's not quite adopt. I don't know where in the timeline he officially gets adopted. It's whatever. Anyways, you have this child in your care who's the same age as her, and in most stories at the time, they're
hmm
in a relationship. And I get like wanting to take a risk and taking a bold stab at like, doing something interesting and different. And I respect that theoretically, but this is not it. Like this
no,
of
and
all the choices you can make, this is not the bold, risky choice I want you to
No,
be making with these
yeah.
characters.
And when you talk about characters like Batman, right, and Clark and Diana and all, there's supposed to be these pillars, right? And I get we
Right.
humanize them to a certain degree, but like
Mhm.
it should be in such a healthy way. This doesn't feel like a healthy way to look at a hero. And if this was like the world of the boys, where it's like subverting what we know as comic book media, maybe that's one thing and you could play around and maybe make a story of like that similar. But when you have Batman, who again, for all intents and purposes, is a hero with a capital H, he's that altruistic guy. Like, does he have a weakness? Yeah, for like villainous women, and we can make that joke, and it's a thing that happens
Yeah.
quite
He
often with him.
also, like I would say his fatal flaw is being a horrible parental
Yeah,
figure.
that as well.
It
Yeah,
like literally every iteration.
yeah,
um but like that is something that's so like real about his character. He is this pillar of, like justice and duty and whatever
hmm
you want to associate with Batman. And then there's this human side of like his inability to like maintain healthy interpersonal connections with his um interest in villainous women and affinity for collecting children that he's going to emotionally devastate and ignore. But all that aside, we are supposed to idolize him as this figure that's above humanity. He's supposed to be the ideal, the goals, the what you're trying to
yeah.
become. And this is just like such a jab at that image that it kind of shatters in this movie.
Yeah, he's more human-like than he likes to lead on, characters. Especially when you
Right.
see the Trinity, right? Like to a certain degree,
Uh-huh.
he is so fallible. Like Clark is
He
is
is the most human of all
yeah,
of them.
yeah. So it is truly, and he, seeing his flaws, like, and you can call the flaws like being with Talia, arguably being with Selena, even though she's good for
I
him.
mean, I would be with Talia too.
Yeah, no, I get it. I get that night. That
I
night makes
get
sense.
it.
But it just changes so much of this story the second that happens, and it's just like, who keeps thinking this is a good idea? Because this isn't a good idea at all. It's never a good idea unless, again, you have the situation you set up in Lego Batman, you know, or Batman Cape Crusader, the series we covered, previously on our bonus
Yeah.
episodes. That's a barber who's established. We've seen a Dick Grayson in that universe. He's a small child. They're never gonna hook up, so this is fine.
Right.
And like if I sent you the recap of Three Jokers. It's kind of a
Mhm,
spiritual
mhm.
sequel to this, and that talks
Yeah.
about the weirdness of Jason and Barbara hooking up. Again, that still makes sense. you know,
Yeah,
and
I don't like that either, but
yeah, the Arkham
yeah.
universe with this older Tim hooking up with her, and she's a little bit younger. Like that makes sense.
Yeah.
Everyone but fucking Bruce Wayne hooking up with Barbara,
Yeah.
or Barbara making the choice to hook up with these other dudes, make sense. This does
Mhm.
not. It's gross every time. It's gross in the animated series, you know, even though it's just
Yeah.
implied, and it's gross here. It's just such a misuse of power too. You know, in the day and age, especially we're talking 2016, so we are on people telling the truth, and we are on
Mhm.
that train. You know, we're here in
Oh yeah, we are
2024.
fully post like the Me Too
Yeah,
movement that was
that
really
is
popping
such an
off in like
abuse of power.
2012.
Yeah, that feels like an abuse of power that Batman wouldn't. And you can still have the same fight that we do, right? You
Mhm.
can still have the whole blow up with, you know, Paris. I love saying his name because it's so
The
stupid.
the
Paris
phone call.
France. You know, you can still have the phone call, it being awkward because she
Mhm.
made that move. You could have him
Yeah.
ghosting her would make so much
Yeah.
more sense right now because he wouldn't know how to deal.
Yeah.
Because he's autistic as shit. You know, like it makes sense. And then you could,
Affectionate. We mean that so
yeah,
affectionately.
absolutely. With saying everyone be, we're all a little bit on the strike. Come on. But yeah, we do mean that affectionately. But like when you have the fight that her blow off with Paris, where she is just beating
Mhm.
his ass and she's going into that abyss that Bruce talks about. All
Mhm.
of that still works, no cuts
Another
whatsoever.
great monologue.
Yeah, but without the context of them hooking up, if you just cut
Yeah.
that out, the rest of the movie makes sense. Her throwing hands, her kissing him, and if he just
Immediately.
grabbed her back and was like, "Nah, never,"
Yeah. If
it hurt her
he
feelings. Yeah,
stops her in that moment and you omit the line where she's like, "It was just sex, like, you don't care, I don't care, blah blah blah." You change that line a little bit differently. Um Literally the entire movie holds up, stays intact, and is
hmm
immediately like 10 times more emotionally resonant when you get to that scene with the cocky asshole.
yeah,
Uh Paris Franz.
yeah.
Sorry.
Even though even when you get the moment with Bruce when he's checking on her in the hospital right before he leaves and he touches her
Mhm.
face, that always read to me in the comics as like a sign of love, but not this kind of love, right? Like that, like not
Mhm.
parental either, just like someone he cares for. He's been on the battlefield with this
Affection.
person. It is affection, you know, and this is like his best friend's daughter. Like that's the other, ugh. Like I get certain orange and black websites like you to think that's what people are into, and maybe a lot of people are. I don't know, man. I don't, you know, that's not the category I click on those websites. But
But yeah, no,
that's a thing, and I don't know
especially in
why.
the context with what we see, with their relationship in this, and then the assault she experiences, and then her being unconscious in the hospital post a very violent assault, and then him touching her like that. Like it reads yucky because of their prior entanglement, I guess.
Yeah.
In a way that it doesn't have to if you had just admitted that. But that's my rant about men.
Yeah, and then it's also weird when like Alfred's there, and because the context, because it's not a thing that happens in the original Killing Joke. Then it's like Alfred, are you asking? What's Miss Corden at? Oh, why is she now on patrol with you? That's you haven't called her in like 3 weeks. That's weird. Why? Why do y'all see so
Yeah.
distant? Like, no, he would know. He would know this happened. He'd be so pissed too. I think Alfred would be furious with Bruce in this situation.
Mhm.
So it's just weird. I know
The
it's a
scene is
headcanon thing, but
presented
it's
of
just
that.
so weird. Yeah, 100%. Listen, cat burglar here and there, Andrea Beaumont, all that makes sense. That's
Hey,
like your
Andrea
niece.
Beaumont
That's
can
weird.
get it.
She can phantasm this anytime she wants. You know, she can be my angel of
Uh-huh.
death. But
Okay,
God, he's such a
let's talk about a certain other agent of
yes,
death and destruction.
another toxic ass
Um,
man.
Another toxic motherfucker. I okay, here's my thing with the Joker is especially growing up when I did, the Joker is so oversaturated in Batman and DC properties as the villain to the point where I feel like often times we don't get a good Joker and it kind of ruins the effect of this character who is so fucking terrifying and absolutely like the embodiment of all the worst of humanity without a single care, and
Yeah.
is completely, horrifically malicious in everything he does. Um and so many times the Joker feels so dull and diluted to me.
Yeah, looking at you, Jared
However,
Leto.
yeah, yeah. This is one of my, if not my favorite, Joker backstory and interpretations. It's definitely up
Mhm.
there. And you mentioned the three Jokers, which I think is such an interesting, like, thought piece
Yeah.
on what it means to be Joker and what the Joker represents, with the three, like, aspects of his character and who's the real Joker. And it has some really interesting questions, and answers very few of them in a way that you can kind of make your own opinions. But something that I just love so deeply about this version of Joker's backstory is, this is such a human man,
Hmm.
right? He experiences the worst thing imaginable, and then becomes like a horror on a
Hmm.
scourge on earth, like the absolute worst being you can imagine.
He legitimately has
And
one bad 24 hours. Like
yeah,
one bad day
and
for
I had in
real.
my notes a question that I posed that I think really sums up his character in this so perfectly. And I said, can you imagine he would have been a normal serial killer instead of the fucking Joker if only thugs had FMLA?
Yup. That's
Like,
it. Yeah.
this man would have broke. He would have shattered. He would have lost it. He would absolutely be a serial killer in every single universe, just by the everything about him. But because in this one, he went into a high risk situation, very impaired
Hmm.
by a horrific loss of his family, and then fell into a vat of acid, and now he's the Joker, like
Yeah.
capital Joker, and that's horrifying. Like, can you imagine a world, I guess we kind of live in it, where the worst of humanity has like one bad moment and now it's everybody on the face of the planet's problem?
Yeah. Because even early on, when we see the beginnings of his backstory, see him talking to his wife Janine about the baby and everything, and,
There's
and
darkness in there.
yeah, there is. It's so in there. It's just bubbling. It's out of
Ugh,
desperation.
yeah.
This world of Gotham makes you so desperate, and this is what you see. You see someone who's so desperate and so weak willed. And what would it take? You're like, I need to provide for my family. I need to do something. So I'm gonna do crime. But it's just one night. It'll be this, and then the worst thing happens to him. So he's already fucked up. He's physically, mentally, emotionally, like spiritually just done. And then he
Mhm.
gets chemicals throughout his body that just even alter that ever so more, and he sees the abyss and jumps in fucking head first with no parachute. He has no problem.
Mhm. Yeah.
It's such an interesting like look at to this, like look into this character, and a lot of people don't like origins for the Joker, but I like this. I do like this. I like this.
Mhm.
I like this idea that he's just there. It could go either way.
Mhm.
Either this night goes great, and he can literally truly be done with crime, and is like, I provide for my family. Wife's not dead. We live in a good neighborhood. I'm never doing this again. I mean, it's Gotham. It's rare that that would happen. Or if he was a good comedian, and he's like, babe, I'm killing it. I'm doing this. We're about to leave. Like, his life goes a completely different trajectory. But because it's
I mean, he
fucking
still
Gotham
is gonna
City,
have some skeletons in the closet. Like, that man is never not becoming a serial killer, and I stand by that.
I,
But
I
it
mean,
would have
yeah,
been
it's
like,
true. Yeah,
it would have been like a normal.
like a Dexter. Maybe he would have been a Dexter. Like, there's some bad people out there. I saw this guy like grabbing
Yeah,
up on this waitress. I gotta kill him.
yeah,
you know,
yeah.
I gotta protect the girl at the club.
But in a story where the entire theme is, how do you respond when you are faced with the abyss, when you are faced with the darkest moment of humanity, and what I like I get not wanting to give Joker a backstory, not wanting to make this feel like a human in any sort of way. This is just an entity to be like instill terror, right? And that's valid, but I think having this moment where we see that this man, when confronted with the abyss in any situation, would dive in.
Yeah.
And when it's exasperated by jumping into a vat of unknown chemicals made by some shady ass lab that they're pumping directly into the bay. We're
Yeah.
not
Right into
gonna
Gotham Bay.
just
Yeah.
ignore that, right?
Yeah.
Straight into the bay, of course. It's Gotham. Why wouldn't you?
Yeah.
Um,
This is why Ivy's right.
and Ivy is right, and we
Yeah.
stand with her. Justice for Poison Ivy. Um, but yeah, with like you see how Batman responds to the abyss. It's instilling a strict moral code that he has to abide with, or else. You see how Barbara responds to the abyss, quitting. She's giving up. She's saying, "I can't get that close again. I'm gonna remove myself from the situation." You
Mhm.
see how Jim responds to it. He clings tooth and nail to his ideals. It's the only thing getting him through is believing in like the law and justice. And like that's, flawed in and of itself, but it's his belief in it that keeps him going through like the most horrific thing you can imagine. And the Joker, you see, is diving in headfirst without a single thought or care to how it'll affect anybody around him, even his family. Like
Mhm.
the way he takes that job with no regard of like what will happen to my family
Yeah.
if this goes south. It's like
Because
it's not even a factor.
there's no way that night, even if that night went well, like there's no way that he would have came out of this. He'd have been the
Yeah.
Red Hood. He would have maybe eventually become some sort of the Joker, like you said. His family would have been impacted. He would have probably hurt them in his
Yeah.
own way. Like you could see that darkness is there. It's so prevalent, and it's that one little nudge that just makes him go over the edge, and then next thing you know, we have this horrible, like literally the scariest villain to me in all of DC. Like
Mhm. He
somebody
doesn't
with a magical ring
care.
doesn't scare the shit out of me. Like
Yeah.
that almost makes sense. This motherfucker does it.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's how can you be that completely apathetic and even joyful in the absolute devastation of humankind,
yeah,
like the people around you.
and
It's unfathomable.
true. And it's funny when you see a lot of this is adapted into Christopher Nolan's Dark Knight. With Heath
Mhm.
Ledger's Joker, and with the whole idea of Joker being, I'm trying to corrupt somebody to show you all it takes is one bad day, and then does it
Uh-huh.
fucking matter? Like I can show you this practically, and when they tie Joker and Harvey together, it makes for an interesting plot point to be like, yeah, look, I can do this. It's not just me. I can do this to anyone. Like all it takes is a nudge,
Mhm.
to do this. And when Joker does that, takes Rachel away, breaks Harvey physically, mentally, emotionally, um, breaks him down. Even there's a scene a lot of people make fun of because like it's Heath Ledger in the nurse's outfit. It's like, how the fuck do you not tell that's Joker? But when he's talking to him, he's like, I'm just a dog that chases like a car. Like I don't have no thought, no will, nothing like that. His origin story changes constantly. He just was to sow chaos into the world. And so it's like a game. It's like a chess match to be like, if I do this and I push this guy ever so slightly that way, not only will I piss off Batman, but at the same time, I will ruin this guy's life and show them that anyone can beat me. And it
Yeah.
works. It works. It's it's insane that it works for Harvey, but it doesn't for Jim. And
It
it
would work for most people,
yeah,
which is the terrifying part.
yeah. And for better or worse, like for Jim to hold on to his ideals and him screaming almost in agony, like it has to be by the book. By the book. You have to, to
The
Batman.
only thing getting him through.
Yeah, because if it doesn't, if the other end too, because Gordon knows if Bruce kills Joker in this moment, everything changes. You
And
know?
everything he endured was for nothing.
Yeah. But at the
Everything he
same point,
experienced.
kill this motherfucker. It's Joker. Kill him. God damn
Fucking
it.
kill him.
Just
Yeah.
kill him. There's somebody on this. We're going to talk about this again next week. This motherfucker right here, not wrong. Not wrong in his speech. Not wrong. We're not talking about Oswald. We're not talking about other people. We're talking about just him. We'll finish that quote next week. But
Yeah.
like, just this motherfucker needs to get.
Yeah.
Crane could be stopped so many times, but like, and Harvey could be stopped, and like all this other stuff. This motherfucker needs to be put into the grave.
And they could be rehabilitated, and I genuinely.
Yeah.
But when you have absolutely no care or empathy for anything existing in the world other than yourself, there's only so much you can reason with that,
Yeah.
right? Shout out to Dick Grayson, who actually did off the dude once, and negative shout out to the motherfucker who brought him back.
Yeah. Boo. I agree. But yeah, it's crazy because when you see, Superman, and we, as a recording, we were like a week post Superman and Lois, ending, and that had an epic showdown. For the clips I've seen, again, they did. It seems like they did a really good job with Lex and Clark's relationship in that, and seeing Smallville, seeing this relationship grow between Clark and Lex is his ultimate bad guy, right? No ifs, ands, or buts.
Mm-hmm.
There is something that, like, I don't think Lex would cross certain lines. I think he would and wouldn't, but he has a purpose, he has ideals, and Joker doesn't. And that just makes like Batman's bad guys are so much more scarier than Superman's because of this, like, Gotham, man. It's just Gotham. It all boils down to like how horrible this city is, that it just breeds contempt and disarray and lunacy, and God forbid you are crazy. You go to Arkham, you're not gonna get rehabilitated. You're gonna become a bad guy. You're gonna be a bad guy by the end of it. Like somehow, some way, shape, or form, you're just gonna be a villain, and you have no choice in the matter because the American health system, especially in Gotham, sucks apparently.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I've also been radicalized by experiencing the American healthcare system. So I hardcore relate to
Uh,
anybody who gets thrown in Arkham and comes out worse.
yeah, listen, a lot
I
of
would
people this
too.
week, a lot of us this week as a recording
A lot of us,
are
you know.
understanding. Oh, we could do
Um,
more. I didn't know that. Luigi just told us.
yeah.
I didn't know that. Damn. But yeah, it is interesting to see Gordon's point, and it is such a testament to that character, for better or worse. Again, like to hold on so strongly to his justice, because again, Joker should be taken out, but it is such a testament to be like, no, like I won't break. I'm not gonna break. You could get me there, but I'm gonna figure this shit out, and I'm gonna fix it. Like I have to. Like he holds so much of Gotham in his hands. Like Gotham's very lucky to have him as commissioner.
Which brings us very seamlessly to my third point I pulled for this conversation, which is morality and what makes a villain. Um, Thinking
Yeah.
about this, I was looking at like the difference in Gordon's code, where he is a lawman, he is by the book, he is following the letter of the law for the most part. Sometimes he's following the intention of the law and bending that a little bit. But he believes in the institution of the police and what that means. And then you have Batman's code, which we see very explicitly in that flashback to the Red Hood, where he's like, "Stop killing them, I'm gonna handle it." And then he does this thing. Um,
Makes it worse.
yeah, it's fine. And this idea of like what makes a criminal, and when it's desperate people doing everything they can to like stay alive and feed their families, like is that like at what point is there a line between um doing what you have to survive and criminal behavior, right?
Hmm.
And this whole idea that I just wanted to chat with you about, of like crime versus villainy versus insanity, and where do all the characters we see in this film fall along those lines.
Yeah, because I mean, even starting off right with like Paris Franz, like uh,
Mhm.
Batman tees him up and to show how serious to take him. He's like on the cusp of being like the next Sionis or
Uh-huh.
Zaz. Like he is that disturbed of a human that he is so obsessed with Batgirl and is constantly taken to an up T. He is, he kills his uncle in such a horrible fashion and tries to blame it on
Mhm.
like the Batman was. That's not gonna work. I mean, at least with the men it would, but like not the media. Um, he, you know, I don't know what the hell he was trying to do with Barbara when he sprayed her in the face. I was like, what is about to happen? I don't like any of this.
Date rape drug.
Yeah, and he it's like aerosol like chloroform. I'm like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Like, God, you kind of a genius in a horrible way. Like you're using your brain for the
Yeah.
worst thing ever. You
Uh-huh.
should use it for other stuff. um, and then he, has that escapade with the nighttime girl, and he makes her
Oh
wear a
boy, yeah.
bag, and it's like he is like this. He's sane, which is makes it worse. I think if there's like a
Yeah.
level of insanity to Joker, like again, he sometimes
Mhm.
does feel like a dog chasing a car, and he doesn't know what's going to happen when
Right.
he gets it. Other times he is like this insanely smart person who knows exactly what the fuck he's doing, and he's just systematically breaking somebody down. But
Mhm.
they all come from like such an interesting place because for Paris, he just wants money and power, and he will do.
Uh-huh.
And when people say I'll do anything for it, he really will do
He
anything
would.
for it.
Yeah. And yeah, I think that is the line of villainy, right? Like he is sane and competent and fully aware of making these choices, but doesn't care what he has to do to get what he wants.
Mm-mm. Mm-mm. Not at all. And there's just a level of depravity to him that's like
Yeah.
I don't know if again if it's a Gotham, it's like just breeds this level of like apathetic nature that people have, and like the things he will go through and try to do to people around him is just horrible. And then you have you know Joker, who again he's kind of in his mind has no options, is forced to do at least one crime that he
Mhm.
knows of, doesn't know he's being set up because he's such in a desperate place that he needs money for his new family,
Yeah.
and it just goes so terribly wrong for him in every sense of the way, and you see it like slowly but surely it's just cracking at him little by little.
Mhm.
It's just breaking him down, and he's by the end of it he just fully breaks. And that most iconic scene, I think, and Frank even has it fucking tattooed on him, that's how iconic that image is, right?
Yeah.
Of Joker becoming Joker, cracking, finally breaking, having his one
Mhm.
bad day. But it's all bred because just again, Gotham is such a horrible. It's such an interesting place to talk about because you can't talk about Batman or its villains without talking about how the city has affected both of them so much. Like
I'm
whether it
trying
be
really
Victor.
hard to not take this personally because I have been reading a lot of sentient Gotham fanfics
It's
recently,
bad.
and I'm like, I love her. She's real to me. Okay.
She's really me, damn it. But like it's just whatever. There's like a black cloud over her, and
Mhm.
it just breeds this for our entertainment, these interesting characters that we can see and we can understand and do character studies and do these podcasts about. But at the same time, like when in
Mhm.
the ideas of the fiction that you're reading, it's just this cesspool of like
Mhm.
desperate. It's just so desperate.
What happens to humanity when
Mm-hmm.
you put them at their worst and in an environment which uh preys upon continuing to keep people at their absolute worst just to see what they'll do. Like that is like the entire conceit of the comics of like what is Gotham and what does it mean to exist there. And it is a fascinating character study.
Yeah, and it's interesting too that when it's done right, when you're focusing on a Batman solo story in like live action, let's say, and you focus a lot on the city as well in that story, I think it helps. I mean, with Nolan's trilogy for the other than part three for the most part to a certain degree, like focusing on what's going on with Gotham and Bruce's constant struggle to fix this city is very appealing and very good, especially now that you have Robert
Gotta
Pattinson's
shut
version.
out. Gotta shout out Gotham Knights 2024.
I was like, either that or Gotham itself is gonna come out. I was like, I don't know which one. Part of me feels Knights, and out there it is. Yep. But yeah,
Yeah, no,
when
and
done
then
right, it
the
just
Pattinson
shows.
universe was really interesting for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah, it shows like how desperate the city is, and then even if you watch one episode like of Penguin, like seeing what happens in
I'm
that
only on
movie.
episode 3
Yeah, but even
as
those
of
3
recording.
episodes, right? You can see post what happened in that flood and everything, and how it affects
Mhm.
everyone in this city, not just
Oh
the
yeah.
mob bosses, but regular people. You know, the ladies of the night, the convenience store owners, Bruce Wayne himself.
Mhm.
Like everyone's in this
And
weird, desperate
what
thing.
they're now willing to do
Yeah,
to
not because they
get their
want to, they
necessities
have
met.
to almost at this point, like to survive
Yeah.
and in their old ways. You know, they have to
Mhm.
like Riddler changes everything in that series to even more desperate point than it already was with the the crime. It's very interesting when you focus on Gotham itself like that, and it doesn't have to be overt. You don't have to be like I'm saving the heart of the city. It's just when you show it with the characters you have, like this version of Joker, it just makes it so much interesting knowing that like he's a product of Gotham. Jason's a
Mhm.
product of Gotham, right? But he goes the opposite.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know, Bruce is a product of Gotham. Even like Dick shouldn't be, but he's visiting it fucking one time, and he's caught in this fucking tornado of like horrible shit that happens in the city. You know,
Bruce
everyone's
is a product of Bristol, but
yeah, he is, yeah. Because only some rich white boy who's like, I'm gonna fix everything with
yeah.
money.
Sorry, Tim Drake catching strays,
Yeah,
peripherally there.
yeah, you don't deserve that. Sorry, but you're caught in the crossfire. Yeah, it's interesting to see like that level of crime, like you mentioned, crime versus villainy versus insanity. It's just
Mhm,
it's so interesting what this city can do to different people.
mhm. Yeah, and the Batman technically following under the umbrella of crime. He is literally breaking the law.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, Gordon, like Joker brings that out of Gordon. He's like, what if someone
Yeah,
was going against this and they're doing this and doing that, and like the whole
yeah.
trial of the Carnies, like yelling at him, like, well, what if he does this? What if he has no show of life? And
The
Gordon,
fucking kangaroo court. Yeah,
yeah, and Gordon literally is like, oh yeah, I'll throw the book at Joker. He's like, nope, because you should be talking about him. He's the problem here
yeah,
too, as much as I am. He is also the problem. It's like,
yeah.
fuck, he's not wrong.
I mean, the Joker literally wouldn't exist without Batman.
No, no, so many that and OSHA, but yeah,
Where is OSHA?
fucking
This is
not.
not a pro OSHA universe. It should
No, it's
be.
not. No, that's why we have Aquaman too. He's like, yo, what the fuck y'all doing in the oceans? Stop throwing your trash in my home. What's wrong with you?
Mhm.
But
I
yeah,
need too.
yeah, Swamp Thing. God,
Stop
there's some.
pumping chemicals into the fucking earth.
Yeah, I
It is
hate
up.
you. Yeah, but yeah, I mean, that's an interesting topic, and again, it's not overt in this movie, but it's so subtle and so well written by Alan Moore that
Hmm.
you get such a great look character study at both the Joker, Batman, and at Gotham
Hmm.
itself. Um, this is a good point to bring up, I guess now, the controversial
Okay.
nature of the ending, because
Oh,
this is
yeah.
also subject to some people don't think the Gordons have been assaulted in that manner, and some people don't think that Batman kills Joker, but a lot of
Mm,
people feel that, especially it's funny when you see it written on page. They're laughing, 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 and then Joker's just stops.
yeah. And then
And
the audio track too.
I didn't know how it was gonna work. That was funny. The first time I watched the
Uh-huh.
movie, I was like, I wonder how you're gonna do this part specifically. Like, do you just don't do anything? They both stop laughing, or like, do you hear a snap? Because that's what it's
Uh-huh.
implied for a lot, or at least people who read into that. They feel that Batman just snaps his neck because he puts his hands over his shoulders,
Yeah. Uh-huh.
and maybe he chokes him out or something like that. Um, but yeah, this is another part that's very much subject to, do you feel this way? Do you not feel this way? The writers say he doesn't. But then again, the writer said this, and other people were like, nope, that didn't happen to Barbara Gordon. Not my Barbara. It's like, Uh,
I am always a fan of, if you are looking for the accurate answer, if the writer says this is the intention, you trust it.
mhm.
If you are looking for your personal interpretation, it is art, especially if it's intentionally vague. It is meant to make you think and ask questions and decide for yourselves. If you believe he did or did not kill the Joker, that's up to your interpretation.
Yeah,
I think personally, from what we saw, the entire theme of the movie was confronting the abyss and how you respond to it. I think Batman killing him in the end would have been a disservice to the story they were trying to tell. The
I agree.
entire story was, this is how Bruce responds when confronted with the abyss. And if you had him snap, literally, and snap his neck, we lose that theme. It gets like polluted in a way. And I do love how intentionally vague it is, that you can have that gut reaction of, oh shit, did Batman just like fucking kill the Joker?
And the next you see his
Um
credits, you're like, I what the fuck?
yeah, and immediately credits roll and you went, ah shit, all right, they went there. And then you stop and think about it and think about the story they're trying to tell. And it successfully gets the best of both worlds of having that instinctual gut punch and then also the thoughtful, this is what serves the story best. I just think it's so brilliantly done.
It really
So
is,
well done in both mediums.
and I think it was interesting because when it was originally released, it wasn't supposed to be tied into the DC canon at all.
Mm.
And then retroactively, they're like, well, like I want to start writing Barbara. I think it'd be interesting if we bring this plot point. Well, if you bring that plot point, you bring in the whole story because that's where
Yeah.
it happens, and then now it becomes canon, and then it has its own issues, right? Because a lot of people at that time was like, oh, if it's not canon, it becomes a very interesting character study of like, oh, if Batman kills him,
Mhm.
it does break his code. It breaks him as a character. But us from in the real world, who's you see horrible shit. If Joker was real, we'd be like, dude, you gotta take him out. Like you can't just
We
keep
live in
putting
a
this
place
dude in
where
jail.
a lot of states still have the death penalty and are actively like invoking it.
Yeah,
I don't. Washington doesn't, but it's something we see and experience in the country we live in. Like that is the law. They are technically following the letter of the law by killing people in response to the actions of their crimes. Whether or not that's right or just, or the right people are
hmm
getting charged for, crimes they did not commit, is a whole nother conversation. But yeah, like the police would have every right to kill Joker for everything he's
yeah,
done.
yeah.
But Bruce personally can't,
hmm
as the person. And he knows himself, and that would so like irreparably break him as a human and as a representation of a better like future for the city he loves, that you know
Yeah, and I think and we both see it eye to eye, and of course we're with the writers on this. Where I don't think it happens. I don't think he kills him, and I think it's still a strong.
I want him to,
Yeah,
but
you
he
do,
doesn't.
especially after everything he sees, and then it makes it so much more poignant when you get to death in the family, and you see what Joker does there, and it makes and again, Bruce doesn't do it. He gets really close to the edge, in that book series. Like post like that incident happened, he does get to the point where Superman's like, you can't do this. He's like, I'll do whatever the hell I want to do. Like he gets to the point where he's gonna do it, but he pulls back because again, he's at that abyss point. And this same
Mhm.
clown motherfucker, he keeps doing it to him, and he comes back every time, and it's almost like he comes back stronger from going close to the abyss. He has to go that dark to then come back, be like, oh shit, I almost fucked up really bad.
Yeah, I
And
mean, well, we could talk about this next week, but like he doesn't
yeah.
give a fuck about putting like petty thugs in fucking comas and
Yeah,
in medical debt for the rest of their lives and
just straight
ruining
murder.
their
Yeah,
families.
that might even be better if he murders.
Basically, right. Like
If
at that
things
point it would have
cheaper.
been better to kill him. But but the Joker, he gets a free pass.
hmm Um, yeah, it is interesting that ending is always left up in interpretation. I think the adaptation did really good, a really good way of showing that as well. Especially then you also left with this like silent sound of rain just falling,
Mhm.
before we get to the mid credit scene, which I think is such a brilliant add on to this story because at this point now we
Oh,
know
good.
what her future is. So at this point they didn't know what they're going to do with her when they originally wrote
Mhm.
the story, but now we see her set up as Oracle. She's in control of her own
And we see
destiny.
her with such agency. The way
Hmm.
she's going out, she's living her life, especially when we had the earlier scene, where I think it's Bullock who honestly is like talking about how disabled she is and how
Hmm.
awful it is. And I have problems with that because like disabled people can have a great life and thrive and like exist and be,
Hmm.
wonderful, fulfilled human beings, um, regardless of what he thinks. But to see her, like, she's having a life, she has friends, she's doing activities, she's,
She's in the same
working on
apartment.
her skills. She has the same apartment, like, she's modified things for her, like, accessibility needs, but and then she's found a way to continue the work and use all of the skills she already has in a way
Hmm.
that might even be more important. She's doing such an important job of being able to take in so much information and figure out what's pertinent and who best to send where. Like the work that Oracle does in this universe is so impactful on every story she's in.
Hmm.
And to see her, you know, be this like agent of herself and be able to stand up for herself and control her destiny after we see that like ripped from her in this film. It's such a perfect like end cap to
Yeah.
this movie, and I don't think it would be the same without it.
Yeah, and I know people were very upset like when the new 52 launched and they brought Barbara back as like Batgirl and that I
Mhm.
think Gail Simone did a really good job in that series. And I think she really established Barbara for this new generation and didn't take away her agency and her importance of Oracle in any way. I truly believe
Mhm.
that reading that series. But I understand where people were really upset because they felt like it took away an important part of her life. It didn't. I mean, they
Yeah.
did not retcon that happened. That she was paralyzed. She just has. She's very lucky to have a very magical chip. I think it's that happens in fucking Arrow, doesn't it? Because Felicity's basically
Oh
Oracle.
yeah.
Um, but
We
her
get
job.
that plot point in
Yeah,
the
I forgot
CW.
that she
Yeah.
has like a special thing on her back. I'm like, yeah, that's right. She's paralyzed. Shit, I
Uh-huh.
forgot about
Yeah.
that. It is interesting to see this like how she regains her agency in life and rejoins
Mhm.
this Bat family and the overall DC universe actually because it's so important to the Justice League. It starts off with the Suicide Squad. Funny enough, she's Oracle with the Suicide
Yeah.
Squad, and then eventually breaks out of Amanda Waller, and then to be such an eye in the sky and I mean, I think if you were to take like Tim, Jason, Dick, Cass, and Steph, and be like, "Yo, who's the most important person?" and it'd be Barbara every time. I think
Yeah.
she even mentions that she's like a better
Especially for
student.
cast and stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah.
she mentions that she's Bruce's best student early, and I was like, honestly, she's not wrong.
She's right. Yeah.
It's like her
Uh
and Tim are like the ones I would be like, yeah, they're the teacher's pets,
yeah.
but
Yeah.
it's so cool to see how much agency she gets at the end of this movie, and it end caps really well. Like it kind of goes back to her story.
Yeah.
You know,
And it
it's
is
nice.
her story for all
Hmm.
intents and
Yeah,
and
more
like
so
I
than
get
Batman
people
and
having
Joker.
yeah. I get people having issues with like the new 52 launch of this like the trope of like the magical cure, like
Yeah,
she's
I'm better
suddenly all
now.
better. Yeah. But like not erasing that history is kind of the bare minimum there, that she still retains that as part of her identity. And I think some of the most um pertinent stories are where she is a wheelchair user and she is Oracle and she's doing this work.
Hmm.
But Barbara Gordon as Batgirl is so important to establishing like the dynamics of the family that without that, I think you do lose some of those interpersonal dynamics.
Yeah,
And like you should. She is the best student.
she really is,
She's the
man.
only one who actually follows Bruce's bullshit.
Yeah, yeah. Honestly, it's really good. Um,
Mhm.
Before we move on, do you have any little notes you want to touch upon? Any
I
funny
have
thing?
your notes that I
Yeah.
want to touch
Go
upon.
ahead. Let's talk about.
You had oops, I don't know how to open docs. You had a comment in your notes that said, "What well-spoken mob enforcers."
Oh yeah, yeah. When they're trying to sell Joker on like being part of this heist, they're so they're
Yeah,
so
they're
poignant,
pretty
so well.
eloquent.
Yeah, I was like, you know what? Just for that alone, I'm kind of impressed by you
That's a
guys.
great pitch. Yeah.
Yeah,
No, it was incredible. Um, and then you had a line about the Batmobile.
yeah,
Because he has the second one after the explosion.
yeah. It looks like because Barbara mentions it's been a week, like since she
Uh-huh.
left, like since that blow up.
I
So
think
it's like,
they're slightly different in the like design. They look
uh,
like they're like allusions to two different like previous Batmobiles we've
mhm.
seen. Like the first one is, oh gosh, I don't remember what it is anymore, but the second one was really uh like alluding to like the animated series one, right?
I believe so. It seemed that or it
Yeah.
might be more the '80s one where it kind of looked like he had a face on there as a shield. I'll have to send you something later because I have a
Yeah.
clear memory of like the Denny O'Neil one that I'm thinking about.
Yeah. I
Oh,
don't remember, but I just do think it's so funny that Bruce is so neurotic that he has every single iteration of the Batmobile like in his garage, and the most recent one blew up, so he grabbed an older model and that's what he's rocking now.
because
It
doesn't that
cracks me
feel
up.
like very like seeing my cousin live with us for a little bit and seeing her autistic mind at work and like
Mhm.
seeing like someone have like so many of the same shirt but just in like different
Yeah.
colors because they know what it feels like and
Ah,
how it feels. Like that's
yeah.
what the Batmobile in my head is for Batman. He's like, I had the seats just right. I got it. We're good. Who
Mhm.
messed with the
Yeah.
Batmobile? Like he'd be so upset if they
Yeah.
just changed anything whatsoever. That's why he doesn't let anybody drive it. Honestly, he's probably don't mess
Me
with my stuff.
too. Every time somebody moves my seat in my car, I do lose it a little bit. So relatable.
Screaming internally. Yeah, that's what I
Yeah.
was thinking about. There's something in my notes that I wanted to bring because we
Mhm.
talked about the toxicity of Bruce Wayne in this and the toxicity of Joker. Um, we get lines for each of them that allude to they are being very, very good lovers, and I'm like, why are these toxic ass dudes apparently good with their penis?
That's all they have going for
That's
them.
all.
So they have to be really good at that one thing. Otherwise, they're shit out of luck.
Because when like her gay best friend, I don't even think they give him a fucking name, dude. It's probably in the
I
credits, but
I
like,
think they do.
but like, I was like,
Yeah,
I don't think they
what
even
is
said
that
his name in the
motherfucker's
movie.
name?
Um, and was that Bruce Timm playing him? Right? I think that was Bruce Timm.
Was it?
It
No,
sounded
he
like
was the
Bruce Timm.
patrolman.
Oh, that's right. That's right. He has always done small, so I didn't know if he would be that. But when he asked
Oh, it's
Barbara
Reese.
Reese, oh maybe she does say his
Yeah, he
name
was
then. I
played
don't know.
by J.P. Carliak. Uh, who looks very queer.
Oh, well,
Good for
hey,
them.
shout out for 2016 DC. Yeah, man, nice, nice.
Right.
Look at you guys. You're learning.
Morph in X-Men 97.
Oh shit. Oh yeah, yeah. Then he is. I believe he's trans. Yeah, because I think they got a trans actor to play Morph because they wanted
Hell
to
yeah.
be like one
Love
for one.
that.
Hell yeah, he does really good
Uh-huh.
in this assy gay best friend.
Real good in this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I love what he mentions is like so it wasn't good. She's like, no, it was wonderful. Oh my god, it was like the best. I was like, oh, you also hooked up with Dick. That's weird. Um, and then Janine, I think she's trying to put a smile on Joker's face, but like she says that, I was like, ew,
Oh
ew.
yeah, about him being good
Uh,
at the sack. Yeah.
like that's weird. Also, I hate
Yeah.
this weird. I think I have a note about it, but it's like when it's with Harley, it kind of makes sense because it's been established. But every time they're like, "Hey, yeah, the Joker got out of Arkham," and the first thing he does is like hook up with a girl. I'm like, why? It doesn't feel like
Yeah.
Joe. It feels too human for what Joker
Yeah.
is. And that's
Mm-hmm.
weird. Also, those three look like I saw this trivia, like they look like Harley, Ivy, and Selena, and I was like,
Yeah.
ew, that's
Ew.
weird.
Mm-hmm.
Or is that also
It is.
that scene added to show that, like, Paris is on his way to being that? Because he does something similar. So if
Mm-hmm.
the idea is that
Yeah.
Joker hooks up with these three specifically because they look like the Gotham Sirens, and then Paris makes this girl wear this pillowcase to look like
A
Batgirl. Like,
pillowcase cut in the shape of the
oh
Batgirl mask.
god.
Update: Barbara Gordon says Reese's name at least twice in this
Oh,
film,
okay.
so I think you're just homophobic.
I think I am. I think I am. Shit. I went the opposite way from last week. I was like, oh, I think I'm finding out something about myself. Like, apparently, I don't like gay people. That's what we
Those are
found out.
not mutually exclusive.
I
Just saying.
pray to God this is not the clip that Spotify chooses, like it did for
We'll
last
see.
week's. But yeah, there was that. What was it? Oh yeah, did Batman kill that short dude? You know what I'm talking about? Like the ones
Oh
that dressed like
yeah.
Batmite? Cause there was a pit of spikes and he just was like, I'm gonna use you to go up. I was like, but there's nothing down there. He's gonna
Yeah.
fall.
Mm-hmm. I take that in the way I take a lot of Batman related mortalities. If it wasn't intentional, it doesn't count in his brain. You know?
Okay, yeah, because he shoots that putty too on the guy's face, and I'm like, my man can't
Yeah,
breathe.
he's gonna suffocate to death. Yeah, Those are two instances of this is a rich boy who thinks everything's gonna be okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
They just
yeah,
hide all these murders that he's unfortunately done, thinking he's like, I've never killed anyone a day in my life. He's like,
yeah. No, they're all blatantly lying to him, so he can
yeah.
keep believing that. Yeah, correct.
Yeah. Yeah. Anything for you?
No, I think we. Oh, when Babs almost beats Paris France to death, I did say arguably he deserves the worst beating, actually.
Yeah, like one more punch would have been fine. We would have been fine with that.
And
Batman
then
wasn't
there
even
was
stopping him. He was like, no,
one.
no, you keep going.
No, yeah,
You're technically
there
not
was
at the
one
abyss
quote
yet.
that I meant to pull for uh drama class, and I forgot to. But it was the line where Bruce is talking to her, and she said something, and he's like, "We are, but we're not equals." And I'm like, "Fuck you, dude." Oh
Oh
my
my god, I
god.
got so angry. I got so angry at it. He's like, he's just trying to hurt her in every possible way. I had my note was like, hey man, if you just were like, hey, I'm concerned, maybe you can hang back. If I need you, jump in because I trust you. But like, stay as far away from this case as you can. I got a bad feeling about this. Like, something just is screaming at me. Like if he just talked to Barbara, there's a really good chance that Barbara would have looked at him and be like, I'll back up for a little
He
bit then.
can't talk to anybody.
No, he just uses anger. He just uses his anger for everything, for his speaking voice, and he just a little communication would have been fucking perfect. But nah, not Bruce.
Yeah. Nope. Not at all. Oh, I did pull that. No, I pulled the second quote.
That's still good though. Yeah.
I'm gonna pop it in there. But speaking of drama class,
Yeah, let's move on to one of my favorite segments, drama class, a holdover from MC University. We have 1, 2, 3, 4 ones today. Do you want to just go down the line, or?
yeah. Let me just clean this up. There we go. Okay. I think that's correct order of events.
Yeah. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. Do you want to be Babs for this?
Oh, I kind of wanted to be Bruce for this, if you don't mind.
No, not at all. Not at all.
You should have listened to me.
I thought we were partners.
We are, but we're not equals. Not even close.
You sanctimonious, self-righteous.
You're not in it like I am, Barbara. It's still a game for you. It's still a thrill. You haven't been taken to the edge yet.
The edge of what?
The abyss, the place where you don't care anymore, where all hope dies. We're done here. You're off the case.
No, this isn't over. You can't dismiss me with some metaphysical BS. Why are you even doing this?
I told you.
We've been up against worse threats than Paris, France. This isn't about me. It's about us. It's about you getting protective and sitting in judgment. I won't have it.
Then get out. Fuck you, Bruce.
What a dick. What an asshole. God, he's the worst. The worst in this movie. He's such an asshole in this.
I love that motherfucker so much.
God save me.
Unfortunately.
I love that motherfucker. What a piece of shit. I love him.
Yeah. Anyways.
It's just like the two Italian guys. Like, what about the murders? What murders? Like, that's what I feel about Batman. What about him talking shit to his family? What? He does it. He's loving. He's a loving father.
Yeah. A good father, Bruce Wayne.
Yeah, exactly. And meanwhile, Alfred's in the background,
Very
like fucking,
popular 3 times.
yeah, fucking like Reba McEntire, single mom who works 2 jobs, loves her kids and never stops. Ah, damn, I'm about to watch Reba again. That's a good ass show. All right, you want to be Alfred in this one?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
Your refreshments, Master Bruce. Well done, sir. Do you need my further assistance, or should I just go away?
That'll be fine. Trying to figure out what he intends to do, it's almost impossible.
Excuse me if I find that comforting, sir.
Still a loving line, a loving jab at the end. Like, I'm glad you can't figure this shit out because I hate that motherfucker. I hate when you have to deal with him.
Yeah.
I want my son
better
deal with
not
him.
understand, motherfucker.
Yeah, that also scary too. Yeah, the opposite is also scary. Like, if you get too close to that edge, man, you can throw you down that cave. That's the real cave.
Alfred, doesn't have a no-killing rule.
Do you want to be Joker or Batman in this?
I want to be Joker.
Okay. That dude, I started laughing because it's when you read it, it's one thing, but when you hear Mark Hamill and how he delivered the line, I was like, God damn, it's so good. I spoke with Commissioner Gordon before I came in here. He told me he wanted this done by the books. You know what that means? It means despite all your sick, cruel, vicious little games, he's as sane as he always was. So ordinary people don't crack. Maybe it's just you.
No! Click, click, click. Click, click. God damn it.
Yeah. And he's just like, well, just beat the shit out of me then.
Fucking hell.
He's like, just beat the fuck out of me. Who cares at this point? Ugh.
So great.
All right. Next would be Chris time. I don't actually have anything. I think his discussion is really good too. Kind of, good to focus on that. But I also have nothing quiz wise other than the fact that we talked about it already. Mark Hamill was technically retired before this, was technically retired after this, and then fully retired once Kevin Conroy passed away.
The quiz time is how many more times will I watch this movie before this episode airs?
That's a good point. I'm gonna say 2. Let's say 2 more times.
That's a lot.
Because you also, I can see you again wanting to do the 3.
I'm gonna have to rewatch it next week.
And now I own it, and I now own all 3 because I bought Under the Red Hood because that was like $5. I bought this physically because you told me to, so I can get to play the interactive game. Even though my box is a little messed up. Amazon, what the fuck?
So yeah, we are alluding to next week's episode, which I'm really excited about. We're doing a double feature, Batman Under the Red Hood and Batman Death in the Family. We will have a very special guest, hopefully, knock on wood, everything works out.
Maybe in costume.
Maybe on theme, which will be amazing. But the reason why I moved this movie, it was originally in our Elseworlds section, which is all the kind of other stories told within the DC canon, but not necessarily the like universes of the animated movies I did pull this into Origins because A, I think it fit, and B, I do often do a place a uh I don't know what's it called when you like a theater puts on 3 movies in a
Oh,
row.
a marathon.
A marathon. Thank you.
Well, you said playthrough,
I
and it's funny
often
enough. The
do.
version we have, we'll talk about it
Hmm.
in a moment, is a playthrough
Yeah.
technically. But yeah,
So I often will marathon all 3 of these movies together with Killing Joke, Under the Red Hood, and then Death in the Family. I feel like it's a really good trilogy, and it's my preferred way to consume all of these movies is back to back to back. So you just get that, emotional gut punch over and over and over again, unrelenting. But yeah, next week I did combine the next 2 movies into one. I don't think Death in the Family has enough original content to warrant a full episode from us, but I did want us to talk about it, especially because I've only seen the streaming version of that interactive movie, and I did finally buy a Blu-ray version of it. And so it'll be my first time seeing it in an interactive format as opposed to the compiled version that they have on streaming platforms. And I'm really excited to see how it changes the emotional
Ye-
resonance
yeah,
of
because I'm
the story.
interested to see how this is going to go because you see, obviously, I haven't seen this at all. I've seen clips
Oh
of
yeah.
some of the alternate decisions you can make and what they lead out to, and some really cool designs of costumes. I won't get into that. We'll talk about it more next
Mhm.
week. But I know at least for our viewers, the streaming versions of both these movies are on Tubi with ads.
Mm.
If you
Are they not on Max anymore?
no,
Okay,
God
they were
forbid,
a couple years ago.
one of
God
them,
forbid.
100% should never be taken off of Max, and that should be Under the Red Hood. Because spoiler, that's one of my absolute favorite movies ever of all time,
Yeah,
animated or
it's
otherwise.
an incredible film. Yeah.
Yeah. But so the streaming version of those are both on Tubi. You don't get the interactive nature if you watch the streaming format, as Sly mentioned. So, you have it in your 80th anniversary, right? So I ended up
No, I
buying it.
had to buy it
Oh,
separately.
you bought it separate. Okay, so
I
yeah, I was
bought
like,
that exact copy. Yeah.
okay, so yeah, so it's on sale. Funny enough too, our bonus episodes are in here. I don't know if you noticed that. I was like, oh, cool. I don't have to search the internet for those; they're already on here. But yeah, this is interactive. The only thing I've ever done in this nature is I'll talk about it more next week. Is Final Destination 3. They have an interactive mode on their DVD
Mm.
and Blu-ray. So it's interesting to see where we go. Um, I'm wondering what is canon since there's a streaming version. I'm assuming that's what DC's like, hey, this is what happens in this movie, actually.
Mhm.
Um, do you have a preferred way for our audience to watch this? Do you want them to watch one before the other? Like, would you prefer them to watch
I
Death in the
think
Family and then Under the Red Hood, or
no, no, no,
okay,
no. You definitely want to watch Death in the Family after Under the Red Hood. Death in the Family is essentially a retelling, in a sort of frame story.
okay,
So you'll see what I mean when we get there, but it
okay,
it is essentially, people sitting down and discussing basically the events in Under the Red Hood.
okay. So post that. Okay, that makes sense. Okay, gotcha,
Hmm.
gotcha, gotcha.
Yeah.
All right, so perfect. Yeah, that'll be next week's episode. I was gonna say we were gonna do homeroom final thoughts, but honestly, we've raved about this movie, and I've actually coming along very more positive, even more so than watching this third time now. You're selling me on this
It's
movie.
so good.
There's a lot
I'm so
here,
glad.
honestly. It's just brought down by one thing that absolutely does not need to be in it at all, and it wasn't even
Yeah.
the original story. So that's what makes it frustrating, I think,
Hmm.
watching this movie. Um,
Absolutely.
so yeah, so next week again, your homework: Under the Red Hood first, and Death in the Family, both on Tubi, at least as of recording. So fingers crossed it's still on there when this post. But until next time, class dismissed.